Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mr. Franklin. Unfortunately, because of some technical issues with my recording devices, no music for this presentation, but we'll get that back online next time. We are on to our last theory of knowledge, which is rationalism, and for what it's worth, this will be the shortest presentation. Rationalism is not as immediately acceptable as empiricism, but there are some crucial similarities between the two theories of knowledge. They both pretty much hold that our knowledge is based on basic beliefs. While empiricists believe that our knowledge is based on basic empirical ideas, things that we experience, rationalists, of course, believe that pure reason is what helps us approach knowledge. What is pure reason? What exactly does that mean? Well, for example, say a skeptical friend of yours, we'll call him Oliver, says something like, what do you think? Is 763 the largest natural number? You answer, no, 763 is not the largest natural number. As a matter of fact, there is no natural largest number. For any number you can name, there's always a larger one. Suppose Oliver is not impressed by your answer and asks, how in the world can you know these kinds of things? Have you looked at all the natural numbers? I have a feeling you don't really know this, that you simply made this up. Now, two things seem fairly obvious at this point. First, we do indeed seem to know that there is no largest natural number, and second, we don't know this on the basis of experience. Numbers aren't the kind of things we can see, feel, or touch. So if we have knowledge about them, that knowledge can't be based on experience, but rather on our simple ability to think or reason. Rationalists claim that when we think about certain propositions, we can immediately understand and grasp that the propositions must be true. For example, we can immediately grasp that the number 3 is larger than the number 2, or that any two people either know each other or they don't, or that nothing could be green all over and red all over at the same time. Logically inconsistent. A rationalist claims that these propositions have something self-evident about them. And self-evidence pretty much means that simple reflection suffices to show that we are justified to believe it's likely true. We'll come back to that. When we talk about knowledge claims based on rationalism or pure reason, we have to talk about their justification, and one such justification is a priori justification, and we know this from our studies. It's from the Latin phrase that means from the former, something prior. It means that this type of justification can take place prior to consulting any empirical evidence. In other words, I can know something a priori if I can know it without first seeing, touching, or hearing anything in particular. It is, for example, possible to know a priori that all triangles have 3 sides. I don't need to see or touch any particular triangle in order to know that that's true. How can we know that that's true, though, you might ask? In order to know something about triangles, don't we have to have seen some triangles in the first place, or at least been told about them, right? It's important to understand that a priori does not mean justification without reference to any experiences, but rather justification without reference to any particular experience. For example, in order to know that tigers are animals, I might have to see some tigers or see a picture of a tiger or hear a definition of what a tiger is in order to acquire the concept tiger. However, it's not necessary for me to see any particular tiger. So it's correct to say that I can know a priori that tigers are animals. Any experience that allows me to acquire the concept of tiger is sufficient to allow me to know that tigers are animals. Now, on the other hand, I can't know a priori whether my neighbors have a ferocious tiger in their living room. In order to know that, I need to inspect their living room. Or, in other words, I need to have a particular experience. Of course, I could always just ask their mother. A priori justification is normally contrasted with a posteriori justification, of course, which means from the latter. A posteriori justification is the kind of justification that's typical for empiricism. It requires we refer to specific experiences of the world. For example, in order to know a posteriori that Jodie Foster's son has red hair, I must have a chance to see Jodie Foster's son. That is, I need to have that particular experience. Besides justification, knowledge is also based on truth. And there are two different types of truth that we'll discuss: necessary and contingent truth. A proposition is contingently true if its truth depends on how the actual world is. For example, whether the sentence, Britney Spears has sold more records than Madonna, is true depends on whether Britney Spears has indeed sold more records than Madonna. So this proposition is contingently true. Similarly, the sentences Abraham Lincoln was shot in a theater and the Broncos won 2 successive Super Bowls express contingent truths. On the other hand, the sentence, if Britney Spears has a female sibling, then Britney Spears has a sister, that's true whether Britney Spears actually has a sister or not. Similarly, the sentences, the number 9 is larger than the number 3, and every rose is a flower, express what we call necessary truths. A good way to determine whether a sentence is contingently true or necessarily true is to ask if it is logically possible that the sentence could be false. For example, it's logically possible that this sentence is false. Abraham Lincoln was shot in a theater, because we can imagine a situation in which Abraham Lincoln was not shot at all, but that he was a vampire hunter. It follows, therefore, that the sentence expresses a contingent truth. Now, it's not logically possible that the number 9 is smaller than the number 3, or that roses aren't flowers. So a tight connection between necessary truths and a priori knowledge exists, and contingent truths and a posteriori knowledge. If we can know something a priori, that is, prior to having an experience of it, the truth must be a necessary truth. On the other hand, if we can know something a posteriori, with the help of our experience, the truth must be a contingent truth. A rationalist maintains that there are important necessary truths that we can only know on the basis of a priori reasoning, and that these necessary truths form the foundation of all our knowledge.